Hey folks, Dan here from Lead with Nature. So, a number of people have been asking me, how do you make all those bird sounds? Can you teach people how to make those bird sounds? So, I thought I'd make a short little video here on mimicking. Call this Mimic 101, how to be a mimic. So, I've always kind of been a mimic. When I was a little kid, I remember mimicking the sound of my grandmother, who had one of her little side gigs was to iron tablecloths and napkins for a restaurant in New York City, and that sound of that. I just remember that, and I would sit there and do that, and she would kind of laugh and shake her head. I remember going to my mom's office when she worked as a secretary in a doctor's office, and the sound of that copier, right, that, right. Also, I was growing up in the 1980s, late 1900s, and I remember how popular the beatbox culture was, and all that. So I was just way into sound, so it was just a good time to grow up. Now, birds didn't come along until my teen years when I started learning them. And for me, it was just a really natural thing to mimic back the sounds that I was hearing. So, pine marrows in New Jersey, Carolina chickadee, and that would help me like, okay, yeah, there it is. Now I hear it. Now I'll learn it. And it just helped it kind of cement in my head. But here's the deal. You don't have to be a great whistler to be a mimic. In fact, you don't even have to whistle at all. There's a lot of ways to mimic birds, okay? So let's start with that. Rules of mimicking, okay? Rule number one, there are no rules. Do whatever you want. Mimicking is basically imitating birds. It may be their sounds, it may be their behavior, it may be their attitude, because different birds, as you know, have different attitudes. So I tell people, use whatever you can. Heck, if you can whistle, great, whistle bird sounds. If you can make weird cheek air noises, whatever, do that. Use whatever you can. Include body language, because I think mimicking is a very old thing. I think a lot of humans mimic a lot of other creatures, including each other, and it's usually pretty hilarious at times, as long as it's done without a mean spirit. And sometimes even just kind of like using the shape of your body, using your hunching your back and throwing your arms out or whatever it is, can help you kind of get into the spirit of a bird. So heck, you can dance a bird. I don't care. That's all mimicking to me, okay? So the other thing is just be playful. Be curious. This is experimental. I give you permission to be kind of ridiculous because it kind of takes a little bit of ridiculousness to be a mimic, okay? So, for instance, first bird I ever really learned well and I remember mimicking was a bird that sounds like this. That's not a whistle, right? That's coming from up here in my chest. So if you're right now sitting in front of a computer or whatever your phone, just kind of make a weird exhale or inhale, right? And just kind of move your throat around a bunch. And then one of those, do it fast. Or it almost sounds like a dog bark. Right? That can be an owl. You can just kind of turn that to a maybe a barred owl. Right? So yeah, you could just start messing around. That was the great horned owl. That. Right, I'm even getting it to my body. I feel like that owl. Gonna pivot your head around. So you could do that. Doesn't matter. Now, if you can whistle, try. And if you think, oh, I can't whistle, I'll never whistle, just hear me out, okay? First thing, it's helpful to have a little bit of water nearby. Lips can get dry, throat can get dry. A mirror can be helpful for people to kind of see your mouth and your lips and your tongue and things like that, so you can mess around with that if you want. If you have people do it with you, it's also fun. So 3 components of whistling for mimicry. The first one is the position of your mouth. So if I'm just sitting here making my lips are kind of pursed out, a little air hole. That air is just flowing out of my lungs, through my trachea, out over my tongue. Now, if I start to mess with my tongue a little bit, same exact sound, I'm just going woo, 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 woo with my tongue. So, anyone know that one? Another little owl. Now, notice I'm inhale whistling. Some people never think about this and they think, oh, you only whistle out or you only whistle in. So if you think you can't whistle, try whistling the opposite way. So try an inhale whistle or an exhale whistle. Some birds I can only do in, some I can only do out. So northern cardinal. That's inhale. Exhale. Sounds a little different. So you'll find some birds are easier to do in, some birds are easier to do out with your whistling. So position of your mouth, how you move your tongue, and even just paying attention to the flow of the air. Those three things are really helpful with the whistle. So if I'm going for a high-pitched little bird, like say a waxwing, I notice how my mouth, I can't waxwing like this. I have to pull back my lips, and the air is really coming through my teeth, and my tongue is wavering a tiny bit. That's how I'm moving my lips, but I can pretty much do it with my tongue. So, let's do some common birds. Here's one you don't have to whistle. There it is right there. Crow. So crows all over the world, all sorts of crows. Here in North America, we have the American crow. Kind of goes like this. So that one is just breathing air up through my lungs and then rasping in my throat. Almost like you're rolling. In certain languages, you have to roll your sounds. So now it's turned into a raven. So there's a crow. Crows make many, many sounds, have many voices. A mourning dove. Here's one I thought was an owl for most of my life. One of the most widespread doves in all North America. Or, right? You can do it a couple ways. One was a whistle. One was just a breathy sound, okay? Pretty fun. American robin. One of the most widespread birds here in North America. That was an out whistle. If I try and do those in, not as good. Pretty hard for me to do. So do whatever works for you. American goldfinch. Goldfinches are widespread little finches, super social birds. So if we slow this down, I'm basically blowing out air, squishing my teeth together, pushing my tongue kind of forward. And that's really all about how I move my lips. Okay? So, there's some common bird sounds. There's some basic mimicry. I hope it's helpful for you as you mess around and start to find ways to connect with birds by practicing making their sounds. And have fun with it, because it's just goofy, fun mimicking. But it also secretly brings you a pretty cool connection to birds. So, have fun talking with the birds. Take care.